It was the year 2000,
सर हम सोच रहे थे कि हम कर क्या रहे
the first day of my tuition class, maths tuitions,
क्रिकेटर है लेकिन टीसी का काम कर रहे हैं खड़गपुर स्टेशन पर
12th board exam.
नहीं समझ आते इंजीनियरिंग बन भी गया ना तो बहुत खराब इंजीनियर बनूंगा अपा
Preparation time, beginning of the year. I walk into this tuition class and there are around 40 students sitting over there. Financially, our family were not very well to do at that point of time, and I had to sit on the ground and I had to actually learn. I walked into that tuition class. I sat in the front row with my books. First day of tuitions, and there's a lot of chatter happening in the room, and the master just walks in. And suddenly everyone, gets quiet because he's a very disciplinarian, very strict kind of a teacher. And then the first thing he opens his mouth and he says is this. He says, "Hey kids, if you suffer this 1 year, you can enjoy for your whole life. If you're going to enjoy this 1 year, you're going to be suffering for your whole life." And at that point of time, I was 17 years old. The rebel in me kicked in, and I decided I'm not going to learn anything from this person. How can he make a statement like that on the first day of tuition class? And ever since that moment, I never attended that tuition. My parents used to think that I was attending the tuition, but I used to be playing snooker in snooker clubs back in the day over there. And a long story short, my parents got to know about this 6 months down the line, and it was the most embarrassing moment of my life, where I was caught lying. I was caught, hiding things from my parents for a long time, thinking that, they would never know about it. And it really affected my self-esteem. Really didn't feel good as a son to my parents that I did this to them. And then I continued on that rebel path because I could never go back to the tuitions. The fees were paid. I was not able to really go and reconcile with that teacher, because if I go into that tuition class after 6 months, he's going to ask me, where have you been? And I don't want to put myself in a worse situation. But a long story short, the end of that year, I actually failed my 12th. It was because of my own decision. It was because of my own thought process at that point of time. And I realized that yes, I do take responsibility of my failure, but it was also the environment that actually forced me to move in this direction. 28% is what I scored in my maths board exams, and even that was one of the most humiliating moments of my life, because I knew something was going wrong, because I had really not studied and I had this butterflies in my stomach. Imagine, somebody who's never learnt a subject for half the year, trying to catch up and go and crack it in the exam. I knew I was already on the losing side, but still I just did what I had to do, and I scored 28%. And at that point of time, there was a family wedding happening. All my relatives were at home. I go to college to check my results for the board exams. I still remember the day. I walk into the hallway, the notice board is there. I'm with my hall ticket number, and I'm trying to search for my name. So that's Rajshekar. I was looking for my name, and I saw my name, and I just moved my eyes to the right, and I saw the word F next to maths. It was 28F, and my heart just sunk at that moment, because I did not know how to go back home and face the family, because everybody were at home, all the relatives were at home. And I remember I just went home, went straight to my room, I locked myself up. My mom came to me later and asked, what happened, because everybody were eager to see the results, eager to know the results that I got in my board exams. They were eager to know, okay, I would have got some 60, 70%, whatever, 80%, whatever expectations that they had. But I let them down. And I told my mom that I failed my 12th grade. And again, that was a very, very tough situation in my life, and I had only one way to go. I had to think about what else can I do in my life. Within like 2-3 months, all my friends, everyone started to go towards the traditional education system, BE, BSc, BBM, all the typical education streams. And for 3 months I was just sitting. I had to wait to complete my supplementary exams before I could get into any college. And during that gap of those 3 months is when I found a course in sound engineering. I saw a newspaper article, and this course was in Chennai at that point of time. I was in Bangalore, and this course happened to be in Chennai. And they had mentioned there the only requirement for joining this course is the 10th pass. And I was like, wow, that's cool. So I still remember I came with my mom to Chennai and went to the studios, and I saw it was like love at first sight. Once I entered that campus, I just loved that environment. And then the batch was going to be starting in 4 to 5 months. So I went and did my supplementary maths board exams. I just cleared it. I scored something like, I don't know, I think 40, 45. I just made it in my second attempt, just to show that to the world and to society that yes, I have a degree. I'm a 12th pass. Okay, even though I failed my 12th, I just cleared it in the second attempt. But I never used any of that later on in my life. This course that I came and did in 2001, I did my sound engineering. It was a 9-month diploma course. By the end of those 9 months, I scored 92% over there. I was a topper in that university because I really loved what I was doing, and I was really passionate about that topic. And even the teachers that I was learning from, they were very relatable. Okay, it was not like the first day of me entering the tuition class and then getting that statement saying that you have to suffer your whole life. Those kind of things really put me off. There you go. Awesome. So I hope that you got an idea of how music is made. In fact, this is just a techno track. So I make all different kinds of music, and it's really fun. When I get into the zone, when I like to make music, it's just complete unleashing my creativity there. And I'm not sure if you're able to resonate with this message, but if you have been a rebel during your teenage years, you know what that feeling is like. Okay. And I was in that peak state of, telling like screw you to anything which is going against my value system and what I believe in life. And that was the kind of person that I was back then, and I'm sure many teenagers are going through that right now. So the reason I'm sharing this story with you is to let all of you know that I truly believe that the current education system and the current employment system is kind of messed up. Okay, right from the point of how people are taken to kindergarten these days, and the way that interviews happen for a 3-year-old kid. Come on, I mean, it's crazy. From there to the entire system where you have to go through so many years of learning the concepts. It's important to have the foundation of English and math, and understand a little bit of history, geography, and the science that starts to kick in high school. It's very, very important knowledge. But the way that the system is right now is it's just pounding the kids and not allowing them to be creative. And I still remember during my school days, I studied in Bishop Cotton's in Bangalore, and that was one of the best times of my life. Okay, because I was an outstanding student in school days. I used to stand outside class even then, but I was always standing out playing games. I was in all extracurricular activities. Okay, yes, I did pretty well in my 10th. Pretty means I'm saying average student. I was not in the lower end of the spectrum. I was somewhere in the mid and above mid range of the academical standpoint. But the fact is that I spent a lot of time doing things that I loved. So I used to play cricket for school. I used to be in the school choir. I sang in the school choir for 6 years. And I'll tell you, I learned so much in those environments. If I have to map it on a graph, I would say 80% of what I learned was outside the classroom. Dealing with people, dealing with situations. Like I used to play cricket for school for 6 years, and there's been some very tough situations. I used to be inter-school matches, confrontations, pressure, dealing with people, motivation, and the whole aspect of team spirit. Learned all of that when I was actually playing the team game, because I was playing cricket for school, and the school choir. So much more I learned, in coordination. Like I started by being a descant, then I was a soprano, I was a tenor, then I was a bass. I didn't sing bass, but I became a tenor. And those of you who do not know these terms, there are different parts that are there in a choir, and each one sings different part. But when everybody sings together, it sounds so harmonious and so melodious. So I learned a lot about coordination over there. I learned a lot about sticking to a system, because when the conductor of the choir is telling us to do things, we have to do exactly like what he says. So I learned a lot about following a coach during my choir days. And from that environment, then coming into this environment into the college days, I'm talking about the 11th and 12th, I was in a totally different environment, which was very pressurizing, and it was really not fulfilling. And I'm sure many students are going through the situation right now. Okay, and I'm sharing with you all the different phases of my life and the journeys, because I'm sure you can relate with this, and I'm sure you can understand from this that we need to fundamentally shift the entire way we learn by creating the right environment. That's the point number one. And also the problem continues after education system. Okay, the problem continues when people, because they have learnt in a particular way, because somebody in their family asked them to go and do that course, because of the pressure from society and from family, they go and take up a particular stream of education, and because they have taken that big, they paid that big capita fee to these big institutions to get that engineering seat or medical seat or whatever, so the pressure is on the student, the pressure is on the child, where they have to now recoup that money that their parents or whatever the family has put in for their education, and they go into a job. Okay, they finish it, yes, they do well or whatever, they get into a job, and they realize that after being in that job for whatever, because the industry they were pushed into, because of all the financial commitments that were made, they realize that over a period of time that the job is not fulfilling. They realize that they have to do it because they have to do it. There is no other option, there's no other goal, there's no freedom over there. And then what ends up happening is the job becomes monotonous, the career path becomes monotonous, because it's not in resonance with their soul, it's not in resonance with their personality. And then that actually creates like a ripple in other areas of their life. The relationships start to go down, the health starts to go down, the stress starts to build up, they start to put on more weight and obesity, and all these things are connected to the entire system of this conveyor belt system that we are living in right now in society. Okay, and I'm so happy that in the positive context, the pandemic, the COVID situation, it has actually helped people realign their priorities in life. It has also literally given a kick to the education system right between the legs, if I have to use that word. Some of the biggest institutions in the world right now are struggling because students are not going to the institutions, and now everything's moving online. So even the Ivy Leagues, even though they're sitting on multiple crores and multiple millions of capitation fees and all this donations, they're sitting, they can sustain for a few hundred years even if nothing happens right now. But people are beginning to see they're able to see through the cracks in the system. And I'm recording this video just to let all of you know that there is a different way. There is a different path that you can take. And the path need not be one size fits all. I think everyone needs to create their own path. Okay, in my case, thanks to God, thanks to my mentors, I was able to create my own path. So I went from the music industry, then I went into the ringtone industry, then I went into the mobile app development industry, then I went into the digital agency industry, and now I'm in the industry where I'm actually creating more teachers, I'm creating more leaders in the digital space. In such an irony, right? I dropped out of college. Dropped out means I never went mainstream education. I don't have a degree till this date, only it's a 12th pass. Okay, just on certificate. But now there are around 8,500 people in my community who are from very well educated backgrounds, who are redefining themselves at the age of 40, at the age of 45, at the age of 50, at the age of 55, at the age of 60. They're redefining themselves because fundamentally that education system leading into the employment system, it did not do the job. Okay, yes, it would have helped them make some money for a few years, but the fact that they're coming into a world right now where they are re-engineering themselves itself shows that the system needs to change, number one. And the only way to survive and grow in today's day and age is to constantly keep learning, unlearning and relearning. The learning should never stop. Today I'm doing what I'm doing based on the experience that I've had in the last 2 years. I'm continuously learning new things, and tomorrow in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years I may be doing something very different from what I'm doing right now, because that's how we need to be quick at adapting to situations. So if you want to succeed in today's day and age, this is my message for all of you here. If you want to succeed in today's day and age, the number one factor for success is adaptability and speed of implementation. If you can quickly adapt and quickly implement and learn from your mistakes, where failure is only feedback. For me, like, failure was not failure. I did not look at myself as a failure. It was only a feedback on what should I do next. So the education and employment system is totally against failure, where you have to make everything perfect. And that's why people are not having the courage to make mistakes. People are not having the courage to try new things. They want to be conformed into that box that they're put into, so that they can look good. They cannot make, so they don't want to make mistakes. And they want, in society's eyes, to look as the picture perfect, well-combed hair, smiling face, eating the right thing at the right time kind of a attitude. It's like that kind of a persona. But I think the rebels are the ones who can actually make a difference. And I love that video snippet by Steve Jobs, where he talks about this. It's the rebels, it is the misfits, it is the offbeat thinkers who actually can make a difference in the world. Because
the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
What I'm here to tell you is, in this video, is you have your own story. Just like I have my story, my journey. And whatever is your story should be an inspiration to others. Whatever you have been through is that lesson that you got to convey to others. Like, whatever I have been through in the education system, in the employment system, is my message to the world that there is a different way that you can achieve success. There's a different way that you can craft a good quality life for yourself and your family. I'm talking about financial, I'm talking about relationships, I'm talking about health, every aspect of your life. There's another way. You don't have to follow the same system. And that's why I've created my community called the Internet Lifestyle Hub, which is predominantly a new school for the new world. Okay, that's what I've even trademarked. We are a new society for the new world, with a mission to create the next breed of digital teachers, the next breed of digital leaders, the next breed of knowledge givers, who can take their expertise and build their own communities. And when we are all able to build communities like this, I'm building my community, you build your community, other people build their community. Once we have hundreds and thousands of people building their own small communities, and at that point of time, when there's cross-pollination that happens, when you have set this culture of learning and continuous nurturing and continuous results getting, that's going to be redefining the entire education system itself, hands down. Like, for example, I have maths teachers in my community who are teaching maths online for kids, but they're implementing my model of the whole teaching system. It is not learning for like 10-15 years, 3 months, 90 days, 1 year. Make it even more crisp and shorter and very focused on the goal, solution focused, rather than just knowledge giving focused. Because most of the stuff that we learn in school and college, I would say 80-90% of the stuff that we've learned and tried to mug up in exams and vomited in the exams, we don't even use in our day-to-day life. It's not a problem solving framework. It is just an information gathering framework. So when that framework changes, applying my model, which is the freedom business model, I have the whole system of helping people design curriculums, find their niche, and also set up all their platforms. That is going to redefine the whole education system.
इतने से मन नहीं भरा तो?
मतलब?
हमारा मन कहता है ये थोड़े से में खुश होने वाला नहीं है।
अगर मैं फोटोग्राफर बन गया तो कम पैसे कमाऊंगा ना। घर छोटा होगा, गाड़ी छोटी होगी, और अब मैं खुश रहूंगा।
And that's going to directly impact the employment system. They'll be able to employ more people who are more aligned. They'll be able to be more aligned to their own careers, their own passion areas. And the best part is it'll keep evolving, and they're not just stuck with one thing because they have learned that one thing. Yeah, the college system and anyone who passes out of college think that because they have learned that in college, they have to be in that sphere or that expertise for the rest of their life. Not true. You can continuously keep evolving based on where you see the problem is and where you see your passion is. Because when your passion can solve a problem, focus on a particular persona. And when there's a potential in the market, then you can when you can get paid for it, that's where you're going to feel more purposeful in your life. Like all our P's, when your passion solves a problem, focusing on a particular persona where there's a potential in the market and you can get paid for it, then you're going to be living a purposeful life. And that is my message to you. If you found this video useful, share your comments below on what is your biggest takeaway from this. And I look forward to sharing more videos like this in the future. All the best.